Hello and welcome to Santos on Sports. So much fun topics to talk about today. And so we're very much looking forward to today's show along with Chris Santos. I am Paul Santos. Chris, how are we feeling today?
Uh, Not as happy as I would like to be, but at the same time, another interesting week in the NFL. It's one of those where the parity in the league is really jumping forward, where teams are finding a way to lose at certain times, and teams who you think are out of it find a way to come back and do what they need to do to keep themselves in the playoff hunt. And we'll talk about that real soon.
It is really, really crazy.
And
I'll
do what
tell
they
you.
need to do to keep themselves in the playoff hunt.
So let me just give you these sponsors right now, if I could. We know it's Scotty's Pub, located at 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River. Citywide glass, 3 locations to serve you in Dartmouth, Fall River, and Taunton. Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville. And Attorney John Seed, 156 8th Street in New Bedford. Thank you so much for being our sponsors. Well, I'm kind of sitting back a little bit this week. The Patriots aren't playing and everything. So I'm thinking, okay, I don't have a lot to worry about. And then I see the Dallas Cowboys playing. So I figured, well, I'll watch those guys for a little while. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh boy, oh boy. Wait till I see Chris. What's going on with the Cowboys over there? What happened?
Well, basically, I was happy in spurts on the offense where they were able to score. I was not happy to give up a 14-point lead entering the fourth quarter, and we are 195-0 in giving up the lead with a 14-point lead going into the fourth. We were undefeated, including playoffs, and we gave it up. So that goes to Quinn and the defense of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, at the same time, I wasn't too happy with spurts from Dak Prescott. There were times he looked good, and other times he looked real shaky, forcing some throws, making some poor decisions. You add in, obviously, some penalties at the end that kind of hurt you when you're trying to move the ball down the field. That goes under coaching, again, as usual. So not a good product out on the field as far as having a chance to finish them off. We didn't do it. Doesn't knock us, out of the loop or anything. Obviously, Philly lost. The Giants won again. But if you start with the NFC, look at Philly at 8-1, Minnesota 8-1. Seattle gets beat by Tampa. They're 6-4 in third place. Tampa's in fourth place at 5-5. Giants 7-2. Dallas 6-3. In San Fran at 5-4. That's the top 7, Paul, that would make the playoffs if ended right now. Washington 5-5, Green Bay 4-6, and Atlanta 4-6 on the outskirts looking in. So I don't feel that bad. Losing it. Of course, it's a game that I think we should have won. Would improve us to 7-2. Got a tough Minnesota team this week in Minnesota. They're 8-1, playing really well. Got some real fire after, I guess, Buffalo pretty much giving them that game with fumbling the ball on the goal line to make them lose. That's 2 in a row for Buffalo. And Minnesota's got a lot of good things going in the direction. I just don't know if I'm stuck on Kirk Cousins with him in that offense. I'm still not stuck with him. So I'll wait and see what happens when we play them this week. But hopefully we can bounce back.
All right. And as far as your New England Patriots, when I say your, most of the people out there are Patriot fans, I believe. So you see Buffalo, right? Buffalo goes and blows their game, as Chris just alluded to. And then I'm looking at the AFC East standings, and 2 things really strike me. Number 1, everybody's over 500. Number 2, if the season ended today, everybody'd be in the playoffs in the AFC East. And number 3, Patriots are only 1 game out of first place. How can that possibly be the way the Patriots have played? So now people are saying, well, does that mean you're in it? Well, I think you're in it for a playoff spot. Definitely in it for a playoff spot. As for the division, though, I'm still suspect because the Patriots not only have been struggling offensively, look at the schedule that they have down the stretch. They have the toughest schedule down the stretch. So to me, there's no way they have a shot to win the division, but I think they have a shot to sneak into the playoffs. What do you think?
Miami 7-3. Jets 6-3, Buffalo 6-3, New England 5-4. Yeah, some things would have to happen for New England to win the division. That's number one. But number two, Paul, you know it. I'm sure the fans know it. You win games in December, and that's when you make your run. And that's what Bill Belichick does very well, and he's done it for over 20 years. They find a way to win down the stretch and get some of them. Can they do it with this team? I'm telling you right now, Paul, it starts Sunday. In my eyes, with what's going on from the Jets, from Buffalo, and from Miami, this is a must-win game for New England in my eyes. They have to beat the Jets. They have to find a way to generate some offense, turn this season around, start winning games late November into December to make their push to make a playoff run. This is when they normally do it. You got the Chargers at 5-4 and Cincinnati at 5-4, sniffing right on your, on your coattails, and you got to play Cincinnati down the stretch as well. So this game here means a lot. I would rather be 6-4 than 5-5 if you're the New England Patriots. So it's the time of year that Bill usually shines and his team shine. Let's see if he can do it again, getting toward the end of November into December.
All right, what do you think? Give us a shout here. You see the number at the bottom of the screen, 774-762-6234. Let us know what you think about this big turnaround here in terms of the AFC. And, when we first started the season, right, I think we're looking at the AFC and making a determination that maybe the AFC was really, really strong. A lot of good teams that we thought about, say Vegas, for example, and we thought about Denver, and we thought about maybe Indianapolis would be good. And, you look at the standings and these teams are all struggling. These teams are all beatable. Even Cincinnati has been kind of uneven, right? The defending AFC champions. And Buffalo gets beat by the Jets, right? And then they lose again this weekend with that crazy game, with, as Chris mentioned, fumbling in their own, end zone when they're trying to take a knee. So, what does this mean? Does this mean that, the Patriots are still a team that's going to be competitive down the stretch against some of these teams? I don't know. We just talked about it a little bit, but I mean, I'm looking at some of these teams and I don't know. Some of these teams I think can still beat the Patriots. That's the problem that I have. Yeah, some of these teams are lousy, but I just don't see the Patriots beating some of these teams, the ones that they're competing with for the wild card.
Well, you can say and talk about each team as they go down. If you started with Kansas City, could they beat them? Probably not right now, what we've seen. Miami, that could go back and forth, and they're in the second spot right now. Tennessee doesn't really impress me that much. They got Derrick Henry. Tannehill has been nothing to write home about. I think the Pats could be okay with Tennessee. You come back with Baltimore. Yeah, Lamar. They've already beat them, so they would really have to make some adjustments to kind of slow him down. That would be a tough one. But then you come back with your division. You have the Jets. You have Buffalo. And then you got the Chargers and, like I said, Cincinnati on your coattails. So you have to figure out matchup week by week. And, Paul, I wouldn't jump ahead too far. Right now I'm worrying about game by game. Sunday's the big one. You got the bye week. You got to come out. You got to show that your offense is ready to make a move down the stretch. And you got to have a big game from them. And it starts against a division rival. Can you imagine if the AFC East, all four teams make the playoffs? That would be something.
Yeah, that would. And that's not the division that people thought. They thought it was going to be the West.
No.
And for it to turn out to be these, I mean, and talk about any given Sunday. Boy, this year, you put on the red zone or you put on anything, and teams that you thought for sure, if you were betting, I mean, Buffalo against the Jets, are you kidding me? Like, that would have been like, you would have lost all your money if you went all in on that one. But, hey, let's go to the phones. Ryan is in Mattapoisett. Hello, you're on Santos on Sports.
Hey, guys, how's it going?
Going all right. What's going on with you?
What a crazy week this was, just from the game of the year by itself.
Oh,
I mean, listen. Any other year, once they go up by like what was it? I think it was like with 3 minutes left in the third quarter, they were up by 17, and then Dalvin Cook broke off the 81-yard run. And any other year, Kirk Cousins chokes that game away, and he almost did with those 2 interceptions. But so I don't know what Kevin O'Connell's been doing over there, but there's some serious resiliency with this team. They just wouldn't stop fighting. And sure, Buffalo made the mistakes with Josh Allen on the goal line and the interception in overtime and all that. But at the same time, Minnesota had to have had some fight to come back at that game. So I was really impressed. And I'm willing to crown Justin Jefferson as the best receiver in football. That catch was something else.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I think him, and when you have a healthy Jamar Chase, I think those two youngsters really show and shine above mostly everybody else in the league right now. They are quite impressive. But Ryan, let me ask you this one first. Let's start with the Buffalo exchange on the goal line between Josh Allen and his center, number one. And then number two, obviously, if you're Mike McCarthy, are you at least attempting to take a chance and kick a field goal in Lambeau and then rely on your defense to try to do something? And what about, some of those play calls there toward the end and what Dak could be thinking? Because, like I said, Paul always talks about an it factor with certain players. And that's a game that I need an it factor from Dak Prescott to win that game. And I just don't think he had it.
He really didn't have it in that game, and what was it? What was that third down call in overtime? Why are you throwing it? Like you had Tony between Malik Davis and Tony Pollard, they were getting ripping 5 yards a clip there, and
Yep.
I remember a few years ago, I hated Brett Maher because he would make all these 60-yard field goals, but then miss the stuff from inside the 30s. But he's been doing really well this year, so I definitely would have tried the field goal there. But at the same time, they probably would have given up the touchdown because the run defense was porous this entire game. Rodgers has looked the best he has all season, so that was tough. That was tough. But to be honest, I'm not surprised because the Cowboys do some stupid stuff like this every year, which is why we don't win as long as Jerry Jones is the owner.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm hoping that Sean Payton is somewhere in the future because I can't stand even on the last drive. Then they get a great first down and get called back for holding. That was tough. And then I thought there was a pass interference actually on Green Bay against Lamb. They didn't call it on that one. And then obviously almost took a sack on the last down over there and they turned it over. So, really difficult times. But showing a lot of parity in this league that you just can't take any game lightly. And it doesn't matter how much you're up. You got to, when you have, the throttle there, you got to put the pedal down. And if not, teams are going to come back on you. And we've seen it all year long in just another great week of football.
I'm wondering what you guys think about a couple of things that I noticed over here. Number one, all these teams seem to go for it on fourth down, as you alluded to, in situations where ordinarily you'd play it safe. I mean, in the old days, automatic field goal. Nobody ever really went for it on fourth down. Now everybody goes for it on fourth down. And the thing is, when it works, it's great. But a lot of times it blows the game. I mean, to force the other team to get 2 touchdowns, if you just kick the field goal, why are you going to gamble in that situation? Ryan, what do you think about that? They get too aggressive sometimes?
Just take the points. I mean, we saw it last year. On the Thursday night football game, the Chargers would have beaten the Chiefs, and it wouldn't have gone into overtime if they had just kicked a few field goals. They went on it on fourth down too many times. It cost them 9 or so points. They would have won that game if Brandon Staley wasn't so damn stupid going for it on fourth down all the time. So it just carries over now.
Well, I think it's no, I agree, and I think what's happening now is. It's such an offensive league. They want to continue to keep the offenses on the field and get away from kicking it. And they think they can make plays and make 2 yards and 3 yards, sometimes 6 and 7, because it's become such an offensive game and they just keep them out there. I'm more of the opposite side. I just want to get it. And I want to rely on, why do I have a defense? I want to rely on them to shut the other team down and show that, in playoff times during the big things, I can get it done with my defense. And a lot of teams are not doing it. It's kind of surprising.
Well, let me ask another question here. Something that I've been noticing too. That roughing the passer on a quarterback. See the way that game ended last night, the late game, the Philadelphia game. I mean, to me,
Yep.
that was terrible. I mean, the two guys are going to hit the quarterback. He took the knee, and then they tried to pull up and they hit him, but there was nothing dangerous going on there. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they took him and plowed him into the turf. So to me, they should have had a huddle after that, and then made a determination as to whether or not to pick up that flag. That basically ruined, to me, Ryan, what would have been a great finish to that game.
I agree with that, but it's within the letter of the law. You kind of have to call that, because he was going behind the line of scrimmage. He took the knee, and then Brandon Graham slipped into him. But it is saddening that this is what the league has become now. And to be perfectly honest, the way that the Eagles have been turning the ball over, who knows if they would have scored and won the game anyway. But at least give them a chance.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Chris?
Well, it's getting to a point where it's a high-profile position, the quarterback, and they want that player on the field as much as possible. So they're going to do whatever they can to protect that player, I believe. And it's difficult on the defensive side to pull up. It's difficult for the defensive side when you're moving that fast to kind of say, oh, and then I got to kind of slow and get my hands up, and compared to where my shoulder is compared to where my helmet is, how low can I go? All the different kind of things. So you're just trying to get to them to make it as difficult as you can. And then the next thing you know, it's roughing the passer. So they're just trying to protect the quarterback as much as they can to keep him on the field.
In basketball, in the last 2 minutes, I know it slows the game down and it can be a little cumbersome, but they always have that little huddle in the end there to make sure they don't blow the call, whether somebody challenges or not. I think it would have been a perfect time to go, hey, wait a minute, we did throw the flag in real time. It looked like we got the double hit there, but let's have a little conference here and say, wait a minute, this is going to be a game deciding thing. We don't think those guys really laid them out. We think they tried to pull up. Let's take a look at it. Hey, you know what? I think we're going to pick up the flag, or maybe we stay with the call, but at least, put some effort into within the rule to take a look at it, so that, once that happened and it was first down, I was like, I've been watching this game for 3 hours and you just basically ruined the end of the game. I know the defense has nobody to blame but themselves, but, I don't think it was that blatant enough that, there should be some discretion amongst the official. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, probably true. And that's something that they may talk about in the future, Paul, and say, hey, maybe we can get a chance to, get to huddle up on it and make a decision on that particular situation. That's something that the league might have to look into. And then at the same time, how blatant was it? How much did he try to stop? How much did he really force him down? A lot that goes into it, and what they're going to really have to detail, I guess I could say, make that something where it's going to be a priority in the future.
So, Ryan, what do you think of all this? I'm interested in your opinion.
I wouldn't be surprised if they tried implementing something like that, but to be honest, I think if they do, it's going to be as much of a disaster as when they decided to implement the pass interference challenges a few years ago, where it was just like, they challenged it. It wasn't getting overturned. It was like the littlest thing, like the most obvious stuff didn't get overturned. It was just so subjective. So I hope they don't, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if they tried implementing little things like that. Although at the same time, this past spring, the USFL did something like that, where every roughing the passer or personal foul got reviewed. They looked at it real quickly to see if there was really malicious intent. So maybe something like that could work, but for some reason, I just feel like that would be a disaster, just like the pass interference thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't advocate a challenge, but maybe in the last couple of minutes of the game, just a quick double check, to make sure that, they didn't blow the call. But I also want to get to Ryan on the Patriots, okay? So Buffalo loses another game, and it's like, wow, Buffalo's lost, to the Jets, and now they lose again this weekend. The Patriots look up at the schedule. They're 1 game out. So a lot of Patriot fans are excited. Hey, they're back in it and all that. I'm going to need a little bit more convincing than that when you look at the Patriots schedule and the way their offense played recently. They may be 1 game out, but unless you show me something going forward here, I really don't think they're in it for the division. What do you think, Ryan?
I don't think they're in it for the division either. Like even though Buffalo's been stumbling on themselves recently. Like, unless we play them in a freaking tsunami again, I just don't see them winning that game. I don't see them beating Minnesota. The only two games I really see them winning the rest of the way is Arizona because they're trash, and Vegas because McDaniels is a freaking train wreck over there.
I don't know. Chris thinks I'm looking at Chris's facial expressions, and I think that he's thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's those Patriot fans again, looking at everything with the glass half empty.
Well, I see them beating the Jets too, but that's about it.
Well, I'm not saying they're going to win the East. Yeah, I don't think they're going to win the East. That's my first thing. But I do think that they can be in the running for the playoffs. Now, I know they stand at 7 right now where they are. They have Cincinnati, I get. They got Minnesota on Thanksgiving, another high-profile game. And then, obviously, the 2 with Buffalo. And the way Buffalo's been, and, Ryan, you could be right when you said it last week, how healthy is Josh Allen and this elbow? Because he's made some really strange throws that I go, where is he going? Didn't he see that guy right there? And he made 2 on Sunday that he threw right to a Viking. It kind of scratched my head and saying, maybe he's got some issues in there. I'm not really sure. So we got to keep an eye on that. I think the team that looks good right now is Miami. Picking up Wilson, that gives them another running back, him and Mostert, 2 guys that can run. Never mind, he can catch coming out of the backfield. You put that with Waddle and Hill, and they got the defensive player Chubb to help out on that side. And if Tua goes like he did, 25 for 32, guys as accurate as they come, that's a team that could be scary. They really could be, and will give New England some problems. That's not a bad team right now.
Miami is so fun, and I remember I'd actually mentioned Jeff Wilson in the comment section this past week. Like that's looking like a better pickup by the minute. Like I knew that he would do decently because he was familiar with Mike McDaniel and that system, but I didn't think he was going to go off for 123 yards or whatever it was. So that was a great pickup for them. And Tyreek Hill might just hit 2,000 yards this season. He's been a lifesaver for Tua thus far. That tandem of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle is just absolutely ridiculous. To me, Mike Gesicki is one of the better pass catching tight ends in the league, and he's not even being used. Imagine if they get him involved at some point. But absolutely, and Tua has been absolutely fantastic this year. So if he can keep it up, they will be a very scary team. Very.
Well, that's why you look at that last game against the Colts, right? And everybody was celebrating how great the defense played. I'm not taking anything away from him. Judon had a great game. They had the 9 sacks and all that. But what's going to happen when they're playing Buffalo and Josh Allen is running all around and you can't catch him? Or when they're playing Miami, as you said. I think that defense is going to be exposed. I don't think they're as good, certainly not as good as what you saw in the Colts game. Not even close.
Yeah, absolutely, too. And as much as Josh Allen has been off these past couple of weeks, I feel like the arm it is fine. I don't see the elbow affecting his throwing too much, but I think it was just more of him being kind of reckless with those 2 decisions. Especially in overtime, if I remember correctly, he had a guy underneath to get a first down. He tries to force it into the end zone, and Patrick Peterson's right there. So I think that's just more of decision making than his arm.
Well, we'll certainly find out down the stretch. And again, I think all of us are in agreement that unless the Patriots can really show us something for them to upset somebody in the division. Although, if the Jets can beat Buffalo, why can't we beat Buffalo? That old comparison never seems to work. But anyway, Ryan, thank you very much for calling. I enjoy your calls every single time, and even those texts sometimes in the middle of a game when things are going awry. I usually get a text from you and Chris, so that's always enjoyable. Nice to hear from you.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right, thanks very much. 774-762-6234. Give us a shout when you can, and we'll talk sports with myself and Chris. Wow, talk about an unpredictable year. Again, we put on the television, and you think for sure that the game's going to go one way or the other. I thought for sure Dallas was going to beat Green Bay, even though the game was in Green Bay. You see Buffalo against the Jets, you think, okay, Buffalo's going to win that game. So, I mean, the Patriots haven't really shocked anybody yet. The Patriots haven't been in any game that they should have won, or you thought they were going to lose and they won it. You know what I mean? They lost one that we thought they should have won, like against the Bears, but they haven't really beat anybody that you went, oh my God, wow, look at that, right? So we're definitely going to need a couple of those down the stretch, and that's really going to determine the season. And by the way, if you can't win some of these division games, right? You were talking about all these division games coming up. Hey, you don't really deserve to be in the playoffs, right?
Well, you have to take, one game at a time. And for New England, you could get into that, now you kind of window shop. You kind of watch what's going on with the other teams. Obviously, you got to worry about yourself first. But obviously, the other teams are going to have to play each other too. And so when that comes up, who you kind of rooting for when it gets there. So when you're looking at the schedule right now, Paul, Jets, Vikings, and then Bills. So you're home, you're at Minnesota Thanksgiving night. Then you come back against the Buffalo Bills at home. So you have 2 at home and then 1 on the road in prime time. And then you go to Arizona, who's been struggling. Let's say that they've been struggling because they've had starting to get some people back. The Raiders been struggling. So if you want 2 games, you got to look at those 2 to say we got to have wins on that one. That's very important. Now, Cincinnati, 5-4. Chase banged up. That's a big loss for them. So now, who does Burrow go to in this situation? And can Mixon have a game like he had the other day with like 5 touchdowns? So, Patriots are going to have to, be alert to that one. You finish, obviously, with Miami, but in New England, usually cold, snowing during that game. And the same thing finish up in New York against the Bills. So there are some games for the taking. And, that's what they're going to have to figure out. But one at a time, and I think it starts, obviously, this Sunday. This has to be a must-win against a division opponent in the New York Jets. Have to win this game.
All right, if you want to join the discussion, you see the number right there at the bottom of the screen, 774-762-6234. Give us a call and talk sports with Paul and Chris on Santos on Sports. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, John C., attorney at law, Lakeville Athletic Club, Citywide Glass, and Scotty's Pub. Thank you so much for supporting our local sportscast over here. So, Chris, let's switch over and talk about those other 2 winter teams, the Bruins and the Celtics. If anybody wants to come back with the NFL, that's certainly fine, but maybe we'll take it one at a time. Let's talk about the Bruins for a second, right? What a great start to the season. I mean, Olmark is playing like the second coming of Ken Dryden or Bernie Parent. The defense has now been solidified with Charlie McAvoy. He scores a goal his first game back. Marchand comes in. He scores his first game back. The lines are all producing under Montgomery, who seems to have cut some of these second and third line and fourth liners loose offensively, and it's producing some big numbers. But is that the recipe to win in the playoffs? I'm happy. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy. But again, you still have an older team, and maybe you got to rest some guys down the stretch. Hey, it's great they got off to a great start, but are they for real, or are they going to have problems once they start meeting the iron in the playoffs at the end of the season?
No, I think the Bruins are for real. And the reason I'm saying it is because their style of play. It's a lot better than what it was last year. A lot more younger guys involved, a lot more defense involved, a lot more where Olmark, Swayman, and even Kincaid, who came in to take in a couple of games, showing that he can play as well, former New Jersey Devil. But when you got guys like Foligno, talk about what he did last year and look what he's doing this year. You've seen some different things, and you put him in some situations and maybe some different roles in what former coach did to what this year's coach is doing and how they interpret it and how they play for it. It looks like the Bruins are here, and I think they are for real, Paul. I'm sure they're going to have their lullaby during the middle of the season somewhere, and they're going to lose some games and maybe get unhealthy on occasion here and there. But I think they'll be ready and focused down the stretch when it comes to playoffs. And then, when it comes to that, Paul, it's the matchups, where you stand, whether you're 1, 2, or 3. Can you get home ice advantage? Do you got to go up against Tampa right away? You got to go up against some of the echelons of team, upper echelon teams before you, make it to the semis or finals, let's say. So a lot of things have to go right as well. And then that's part of the game, and that's part of the matchups. That's part of the situation. So, but I think I like what I see right from the beginning, and I think they will be continuing right into the playoffs.
Well, this is sort of like this whole thing about this is the last hurrah for some of those older guys like Krejci and
Yeah.
Bergeron, who were instrumental in that 2011 Cup run. But amazingly enough, that's 11 years ago already, right? And so, they're coming back, and Krejci came back, and they want to take one last kick at the can, so to speak. And Bergeron's always been a straight shooter, class act on and off the ice. So the fans obviously are really behind him and would just love to see him get one more shot at the Cup. Thankfully, they got the one, so it's not like he's getting his first, but, get one more shot at the Cup. And when you combine like the Krejcis and the Bergerons, right, who are the older guys, with a Marchand who's like medium to older, and then you throw in Pastrnak and, obviously McAvoy and some of the young players coming up, you really have a combination of young, medium, and veterans all kind of coming together on the same page. And it's really worked under Montgomery.
It has. And yet, Paul, when you look at Bergeron, when you look at Krejci and some of them veteran players, does it look like they've lost the step? Usually when you're that and you're thinking about retiring, like Chara, when Chara was going out, you could see guys getting around Chara. You could see that he was a little bit slower. I'm not seeing that too much from these other guys to sit there and say, this is it for Bergeron. He's done. It'll be interesting to see if he finishes that way because, he's still sniping. He's still winning faceoffs. He still knows where to be, where to pass, still got speed, and doing a great job. And the same thing with Krejci and a couple of the other guys. So, I think they still got a couple of years remaining.
You mentioned Kincaid, right? So I'm thinking about this goaltending situation, right? I mean, Swayman was kind of like the guy that I thought was going to catch fire and really do great. But then at the beginning of this year, Ullmark was playing better than him. So Montgomery, of course, is going to go with a goalie who's playing better. In this case, it's Ullmark. And Ullmark is looking like that guy in Buffalo that they thought they were going to get when they brought him in last year. When he was with Buffalo, he was nasty. He was great, right? The Bruins, shaky. Now he looks like that guy that the Bruins wanted him to be. Now the question is it just a fluke? Is he just, a little bit of a flash in the pan earlier in the season, or is he going to be your guy? But then, Swayman got hurt, unfortunately, on that collision in front of the net when Ullmark got pulled in that crazy game. They throw Kincaid in there, basically a journeyman. He's bounced back and forth between the AHL and NHL. He does have really cool pads, I have to say. But he made like that unbelievable split save the other day. And after the game, they're talking to Bergeron. He's like, hey, this guy Kincaid, he saved us. He did in that game. So even the number 3 goalie is coming through. Talk about everything coming together for the Bruins.
Correct. And if you go from the year before, where let's say now a lot more shots on goal created from the turnovers that the Bruins were giving a lot more up in their own end, in the neutral zone, turning and swinging back offensively. Now you're always put back on your heels. Doesn't look that way this year for the Boston Bruins. Everything's moving forward. They're taking away, plays away, moving it from neutral ice. I saw one the other day off the boards to Marchand, tapped it in the air, went to Pastrnak, tapped it back, flipped it back over, another tap, and a one-timer by Bergeron. And next thing you know, it's a goal. It's in the back of the net. So some impressive plays from both the defense and the offensive side. But I think the turnovers and believing in the system, expanding it on the offensive side, and obviously creating a neutral zone to make sure that, hey, we turn it right around when we get a turnover, and let's put the pressure back on them instead of we're on our heels. And so far, it's worked for the Boston Bruins.
What do you think about this, getting rid of Cassidy and bringing in Montgomery? At the time the Bruins made that decision, oh, my God, Cam Neely and Bob Sweeney just got raked over the coals. I mean, wow, this is terrible. The kids don't like the fact that Cassidy is on their back all the time and everything else. And so they get rid of Cassidy, bring in Montgomery, and all of a sudden they're playing great. And the thing that really bothered me about that, the whole Cassidy thing, I was a supporter of Cassidy. I thought Cassidy was great. I thought, gee, they're really going to let Cassidy go, But then when you think back about it, and we talked about it, the fact that Bergeron, when he was negotiating with the Bruins, it seems like Bergeron didn't want to come back if Cassidy was there. Krejci didn't want to play for Cassidy, right? Some of these younger players thought he was, too much, a little bit too much to handle. Everything's negative. You stink. You're out of position. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. Hey, sometimes too much negativity is no good. So they bring in Montgomery, and all of a sudden these guys are the second, third line. Even the younger players are playing better. So maybe in retrospect, Cassidy wasn't as great as we thought he was.
Well, I wouldn't tell him that because the Las Vegas Golden Knights look pretty damn good out there in the West and what they're doing. So he definitely knows how to coach because he's got that team moving in the right direction as well. But, Paul, you know that off the ice locker room issues obviously determine a lot. And it gets in mentally, and then you take it out on the ice and you don't perform the same way. So is that what happened with Cassidy and what Montgomery does better? Has a control of the locker room, the happiness of the group, the on and off the ice situations that gel and work together, the traveling, the name calling, calling them out during the press, all that kind of stuff, what people like and what they don't like. We don't know all that behind the scenes. That's something that we could get maybe somebody on to talk about and say, hey, Billy Jaffe or Barry Peterson, or someone to say, what did you see? What is the difference between here and what goes on really in a locker room at the professional level? That's the key. Never mind if it's high school. We know a lot goes on there. We're talking about a professional level. But you can see that it actually takes its toll because there's the difference between last year's Bruins and this year's Bruins. If we're having some technical difficulties, but trying to hear you there, Paul.
Hang on one second. Hey, Mick, hang on 1 second. We accidentally cut you off. Hey, Chris, I got Mick Colaggio on the line. Mick, what do you think about these Bruins this year?
Hey.
Okay, I'm back, right?
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk to Mick.
Are they for real, or is this a flash in the pan?
I think they're for real, but I do think the pro scouting on the Bruins is in its early stages, and that things will level off a bit. They do have a tough games, which are extremely winnable. The Bruins have a pretty challenging stretch ahead with multiple matches against some very, very good clubs. So I think that we're going to find out a little bit more. But the thing with the Bruins right now is that their new coach has given them some tweaks that, together with some resolved and improved play from familiar personnel. I mean, look how much quicker Derek Forbort got since last season. He became, rather than a guy who could be slightly better than Jared Tenorti as a depth defenseman on the left side and a penalty kill specialist, he became a guy before his injury blocking the shot that he could fill in the top four for them while they were awaiting the return of Matt Grzelcyk. Now Grizz is back and Forbort's out, so it's a little bit different right now. The Bruins are not defending as solidly as they had been. Grzelcyk is more dynamic with the puck movement, but at the same time, he doesn't match up as well. I was starting to say before that Hampus Lindholm, that acquisition changes the game for the Bruins, who have their first left shot matchup defenseman since Zdeno Chara aged out. So to me, the ceiling is off the Bruins. They no longer have to find a million other ways to win. They can shut down an opponent now, and their defense is believable when they play it with the forwards back checking. So the fact that David Krejci came back is a huge boost to the second line. It gives them a lot more silk rather than just, Eric Holla when he was on, he was a handful, but he played to a certain level and it was a grinder. In the case of David Krejci, you have a whole different level. Now, can he keep up the pace? Can he stay healthy? There's a lot there. There's a lot of X factors. The Bruins have a tough schedule coming up, more challenging opponents. We'll learn a little bit more. Pro scouting is in its early stages against the Bruins, and they will discover wrinkles where they can challenge the Bruins to get to the net. and bar the perimeter a little more. I think we saw that in their last game. Teams are starting to pack it in more and challenge the Bruins to get inside. And so they're trying to make more of those cross-ice plays, which some goalies read very, very well. Pavel Zacha scored a nice one on a rush. But if the Bruins are already in a set offense, those set plays that are going for the Ovechkin-type shot to the circle, those are not those are being closed off pretty well right now. I think the Bruins, because of their depth and because a lot of guys came to play this year, they are finding a lot of different ways to win games that they don't necessarily outplay the opponent. Jim Montgomery said after their last game that they need to be better with their breakouts. They need to be cleaner, and they need to reestablish their forecheck. And the telltale sign that the Bruins are on their game will be known if they get some 5-on-5 shifts where they extend possession, tire out the opponent, hem them in, very much like the heavy game that Claude Julien's Bruins played. That we need to see more of in order to know that the Bruins are playing the kind of hockey that Monty wants to see out of them on an extended basis. But it is the honeymoon. It is early, and pro scouting from around the league will figure out ways to get at the Bruins a bit. But right now, this team looks like it's for real, and the Bruins will have answers to things that other opponents have, because right now they got a lot of ways. Taylor Hall's better this year. Pavel Zacha, it may be an answer down the road as a future centerman. That was his position. Right now, he's an apprentice learning from Bergeron and Krejci. So it's a great place for him if they can hold on to him. He's UFA at the end of the year. So a lot of moving parts here, but I like the Bruins right now.
All right, so he said he could give us 5 minutes.
And I'm sorry, Paul, I overlooked Linus Ullmark. He has forgiven a lot of mediocre stretches, especially early in games.
Chris, you have a quick comment before we let Mick go?
No, Mick talked about last year, and a lot of teams do it. You got to start coming down the middle. And when you have 3 centermen and you have them where you want them, you build around it. And then obviously defensively, you protect your house. And your house is from the goalpost to the red dots to the middle. And if you can keep everything outside that and you protect that house, and a lot of coaches talk about that, that's how you win hockey games. And right now the Bruins are doing that on both sides. Good center iceman, 1, 2, and 3, and then protecting that house from the goalpost to the red dots and across. Do you think that, Mick?
Well, in principle, you're talking perfect textbook there, Chris, and I don't disagree with anything you said. I do believe that the performance shown by the Bruins in the earlier stages of this season, and we're not very far along, was a little better than it is lately. I think that the Bruins need to get a little bit more inside in their top 6. I think right now things came so easily or so suddenly and successfully for them that, and it's natural that you're going to have Pastrnak skate a power play rush into 4 guys and give up the puck and give up a shorty with Keith Kincaid in that playing his very first game in the uniform. Not what you want to do. But the Bruins have been incredibly resilient. So they've been overcoming those kinds of mistakes. They won't ever overcome that kind of lack of discipline against the better opponents that they're going to face in this next stretch. So, and everybody's getting up for the Bruins right now. If the team isn't good, they're fighting hard. So, but yeah, the Bruins got to keep getting inside on their attack. But they are playing well. They were a little better when Forbort was helping them back there before his injury. When he broke the finger block in the shot. As far as protecting their own house. And now that Charlie McAvoy is back, then, they're more aggressively taking pucks away from defense and turning them to offense. So I think a lot of times the Bruins ice the puck, it looks sloppy, but that's because they're doing a lot of quick ups. You don't see Marchand and Pastrnak making rink-length rushes anymore at 5-on-5. What you see now is more quick ups. Guys are making more set plays to get on the other side of the red line. And sometimes you're not going to connect. You're not going to be really clean. And that's when you're going to ice the puck a lot. But they got great face-off guys. So right now, and Charlie Coyle, terrific puck protector. So they can go 3 deep and win draws and win possessions.
All right, real quick before we let you go, how close are the Bruins to signing Pastrnak? What are you hearing?
Nobody's talking about that right now. It seemed to me like the conversations were ongoing. But right now it's kind of quieted down as the team is kind of diverted everyone's attention, one by their incredibly successful start and the other obviously with Mitchell Miller that is thankfully going away now, it seems. But it's unfortunate that one issue detracted so much from all the great things the Bruins do off the ice. So, but yeah, I think I think the Pastrnak thing is probably something that is it's going to catch everyone off guard when it gets done, because right now everybody's kind of distracted by what else has gone on since the puck dropped.
Hey, Mick, thank you very much for jumping in here. We really appreciate it, and we'll catch up as the season progresses along.
Terrific, Paul. Thanks for having me. Great talking with you, Chris.
All right, Mick Colaggio kind of just jumped in there, and we really appreciate it. Talking sport. Hey, anytime you talk hockey, right?
Thanks, Mick.
There's a guy that's been around and knows his stuff, so we thought he'd get his opinion. I'm a little concerned there that, he's up there in Boston. He has a lot of connections. He has a lot of feedback, and, he has a lot of feelers out there. And for that whole Pastrnak thing to have quieted down, I don't know. It feels like it might be another Bogarts situation that at this point, once you get this late, you might as well test the market. Chris, are you able to hear me? All right.
Yeah, the Bruins have a lot on their plate. The Bruins got a lot going on right now. But Mick knows hockey. There's no doubt about that, Paul. And what he's telling you is the facts. And he's right up there listening to, every interview. He's in the locker room, hearing everything they say. He's in the press room. He's got the coach's ear. So he knows exactly what's going on. So to take into perspective, what he's just talked about probably in the last 10 minutes is right on cue of what the Boston Bruins are going through and what's coming up for them. Like he said, a tough schedule stretch right now for them.
Very interesting stuff from Mick. And, I was hoping that he was going to say something like, oh, yeah, they're 90% of the way of getting that done with Pastrnak, but it doesn't sound like it.
Yeah.
All right. But on the positive side, Allmark playing
too
great.
early to tell. And I'm sure, again, their focus right now is what this season has started for them.
All right, and before we wind it down, I think we might wind it down just a few seconds early. For whatever reason, we're having some internet issues over here, which doesn't happen too often. But hey, when it happens, it's a little distracting. But real quick, if you can hear me, your thoughts on the Celtics. Now, I'm watching the Celtics, and I see Tatum there. Seems to me maturing right before my eyes here. You always send me the stats, and the stats are great because, I know the points are going to be there. But when you see the assists, and you see the rebounds, and you see him making the players around him better, that's what you want to see from Tatum. And I have to say, I see that from him. Now, the only thing left is coming through in the clutch. Can he come through when the screws start tightening, right? But as far as getting everybody involved and making everybody around him better, I see that for sure, and I'm glad to see it. And there's Chris. Chris is going off into Chris is going off into the stratosphere over here. So maybe what we can do, I sent him a different link. Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I sent you a different link. So we're going to remove the old link and keep the new link. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. All right. Well, hey, we got time to chat a little bit about the
up on me, Paul, but
all right, I have an idea. Let's see if we can try this over here. I have an idea. Let's see. While we're waiting to get Chris's final thoughts on the on the Celtics, I'm gonna try doing it this way. How's this?
How about the phone?
There we go. There's more than one way to skin a cat over here.
There you go.
Well, I don't know if you heard me, but I was talking about your guy, Mr. Tatum, right? Maturing before our eyes.
I think so. I like what I see. I talked about
with you prior from what we saw from last year. He looks more confident going to the basket. He looks faster going to the basket. He's not afraid to obviously maybe take some more threes that, he's not shy to do. But I like when he takes it off the dribble, number one. Number two, if they come up on him, now he can get by him. And doesn't mean he's got to go to the basket. He'll take an 18 or 20-footer off the dribble as well. And then if he thinks he can't, then he's taking it to the basket. So he's making some great decisions and less turnovers. And I agree, maturing right in front of your eyes.
Well, the thing that's great is I know you like to send me the stats, which I enjoy. At the end of the game, you send me the stats, and I'm like, okay, we already know what the points are going to be. The points are going to be up there. But how about the assists and the rebounds? Making people around him better, which is what the great players do, right from Jordan to Bird and right down through the ranks. The people around you are made better by that player. And really didn't see that earlier in his career, but we're seeing it now.
Yeah, we sure are. And it's spur of the moment, too. Paul, because when the ball comes to you, you got split decisions to see a guy open in a corner. You got split decisions to see if you're going to get double teamed. You got split decisions to see if you're going to make a pick and then go a pick and roll, or if you just set a stronger pick and your partner goes to the basket and gets the 2 points, or whatever you need to. Now you get the ball and you got to make that split decision, whether you're going to take them off the dribble, where you're going to take the three, whatever it is. But right now, he seems to be thinking the game the way it should be, and he looks like one of the elite players. Now, I haven't had too many games down the stretch, which I know you like to see, more of that it factor. Can he do it down there? But, boy, he's proven that at least the first month that he's a tremendous basketball player right now.
Right. I was actually going to mention that the only thing left that we want to see, he's got the athleticism, he's got the smarts. He is really a great player in terms of all facets of the game. How about defensively, when he made a great defensive play with about 30 seconds left in one of those games a couple of weeks ago that really saved the game? Defensively playing better, making the players around him better, all the stuff that we talked about, rebounds, assists. Now, the one thing left, there's 15 seconds left in the game. You need a big play. Can you make that play in the clutch when the chips are down? We see great players in the NFL and all over. There are certain guys that seem to be able to pull that off, and other guys seem not to. I don't know if it's their fault or, they just get into that moment like Big Papi could do or Reggie Jackson could do in baseball, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan in basketball, certain guys that, boy, when the chips are on the table, they're going to come through. So I just want to see that a little bit more because that's about the only thing left that I haven't seen.
Yeah, you're probably right. And you hope that those games don't have to happen, because by then that means you're beating teams by double digits and you're not worrying about it. But you're going to get games like that, and you're going to get better teams that you're going to have to do it with, whether it's Philadelphia, whether it's Milwaukee, some of the big teams, obviously in the East, and never mind coming the opposite from the West. So when that stretch comes and you get to that, I'll be looking forward, and hopefully we're getting to see what we want from him. And if not, even Brown, or he made that play better for his teammates so they could make the jumper, whether he set a pick or whether he made the pass or whatever it was. So, when it gets a little bit closer in some of those games, I'll be curious to see what it looks like and how the Celtics set up and how they run plays instead of not isolation, one-on-one, and, what can you do for me now? So I'm hoping that I see an improvement in that as well.
Well, it's still great to be a Boston sports fan because right now the Bruins are playing great, the Celtics are playing great, and the Patriots, even though they're not what they were, they're still an interesting team to watch between all this stuff with Belichick and what is he doing and why is he doing it and what about the system and all the stuff that we get to talk about. So all of the teams are always interesting to talk about, and we're enjoying doing that here on Santos on Sports. And we're going to try to get into some of the more local stuff as we go along, too. But at this time, we're going to wind it down. Sorry about some of these technical problems, the internet problems, but we are going to thank our sponsors at this time, Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River, Citywide Glass with 3 locations to serve you at 425 State Road in Dartmouth, additional locations in Fall River and Taunton. We have the Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville, where you can play tennis, pickleball, and more. And John Seed, attorney at law, 156 8th Street in New Bedford. And you can get more information on John by going to his website at johnseedlaw.com. Okay, Chris, any closing thoughts?
Well, hey, like I said, Paul, at the beginning, you're in 7th place right now, and a lot of things start in late November into December, and that's when you make runs to make playoffs. So it's a big game for New England on Sunday. The fans should be excited because they get to this one and go 6-4. You have 4 teams in front of you at 6-3. Let's say those 4 teams got beat: Tennessee, Baltimore. Obviously, you would beat the Jets, and let's say something happened with Buffalo. Now they would all be 6-4, and the Pats would be right there with them. So it's a big game for New England fans. So look forward to seeing that one on Sunday at 1:00.
And it's certainly not impossible down the stretch, right? You got the Cardinals and the Raiders that are struggling.
Yep.
And so you got the Bills twice, the Dolphins, and the Bengals, right? Well, the Bengals really haven't played as great as they did last year. And really, if you're going to be in the playoffs, you're a playoff team, you got to have at least one upset during the year. You know what I mean? So really, you just need to take care of business and maybe one upset, and you'd probably be right there.
Absolutely. And obviously, if you could steal one at home, that's usually the place that you usually go get it. But Minnesota's had a couple of games, and Cousins been known to have a tough one now and then too. So maybe something in Minnesota could happen. You got to look at it from that point of view. And then you look at a couple of other games where some of these teams have not been there before. Tua's never been there. Miami hasn't been around too much in the playoffs. So, maybe they'll give something up. You got to look at it from that way. So if the Patriots, can get some offense going, and hopefully that's what they worked on in the bye week, that's what I'm going to be looking for on Sunday to see if they've improved in anything offensively.
Real quick before you go, who does Dallas have this week?
Unfortunately, we are at Minnesota.
Ooh.
So, they're 8-1. They're coming off 2 big wins. I'm hoping that they just kind of take that road trip from Buffalo in that big win, and they just sit back on their laurels and say, well, we beat Buffalo, we can beat anybody, and we take it to them. But, yeah, that's going to be another tough one for us on the road at Minnesota.
You never know.
You never know.
All right. Well,
the game has been exciting on Sundays.
Yeah, it always is. It's just been crazy. Like, you never know who's going to beat anybody on any given day, and that they say that all the time. But in particular, this year, it's just been that for sure. All right. Again, thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to Ryan and Mick for joining our discussion here today. I'm Paul Santos for Chris Santos on Santos on Sports, and we'll see you next time. Have a great evening, everybody.
See you, everyone.